Let's level up.
Level up. Community, friends, family. Level up. Your finance, your friends, and your mindset. Level up. Your health, vision, and knowledge. Level up.
Your life. Level up with Sharie Wilson.
Okay. Welcome to Level Up with Sharie Wilson. And today we're talking about marriages, the ups, the downs, the pretty, the ugly, and everything in between. We have the Singletons in the house. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about you guys. Who is Marvin? Who is Nicole?
Who is Nicole? Nicole is a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister. I work full time. I'm really, into my career. I am a leader in the church. And just, a mom and a wife, somebody who comes home, cooks, cleans, well, I try to, but, just your everyday mom, your everyday career woman, somebody who's just, trying to just prosper.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Who's Marvin?
A hard worker, a guy with inspiration, motivation, a loving father, strong, firm. Involved in the church, loves God, and just, black man just trying to elevate in today's society.
I hear that. Okay, and how many children do you guys have?
6. We have 6 kids, yeah.
Okay. All right, and the ages?
We have a 19-year-old, then we have an 8-year-old,
okay,
a set of twins that are 6, and a set of twins that are 5.
Wow, so pretty big family.
Yes.
Yeah, we got a basketball team.
And 2 dogs. We can't.
Two dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have a basketball team. I don't think you have as many as we have. So Marvin, what do you admire most about Nicole?
Just everything about her. Her being a loving mother, her willingness to keep her ambition, wanting to move forward, and just everything that she does in the home, everything she does in the workplace. She always strives to do better, and I think that's good. She sets a good example for our kids.
That's good. Aww. Nicole, what do you admire about Marvin?
The love he has. He loves hard, but he always has my back. Always. Even through our challenges, I just thinking back when through every challenge, he's always had my back. Mm-hmm. There's been times where we've been on horrible terms, and I'll call him, and he has my back 100%. I can always count on him. If I can't count on anybody else, I know I can count on him. So just that protection, that safety net, I get with him.
And I think that's everything. I think at the end of the day, if you know that somebody got your back, you can kind of, not that nothing else matters, but that matters a lot.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we all know that marriages have their share of challenges. And, some is worse than others. Can you guys share some of your challenges you guys have in your marriage?
Now or in the past?
Now, in the past?
Yeah. Well, I'll touch on the past, just the...
What has hindered your marriage, should I say?
Yeah. I would definitely say lack of communication.
Lack of trust.
Yeah. In the past, we both, I know I've done my share of stuff to make it to where he couldn't trust me. He couldn't trust me. He couldn't believe in me. Couldn't value anything I said. Hard to communicate with me. And that just, it hindered our marriage. Really.
Now, where did the lack of trust really come from? Was it because someone was lying, or you felt like you couldn't be honest with him? Like, where did the lack of trust really come from?
On my part, it was, I'm going to just be honest, cheating, having affairs, yeah, that's what it was.
That would definitely take trust away.
Yeah.
Right.
And for yourself?
Probably the same, cheating and, just the lying and just different things of that sort where, you know, you catch a person in a lie or something's not adding up, or, you know, and that starts to build a lack of trust, and, you know, when things aren't followed through on, or, you know, even someone having a conversation with other people and you're hearing them lie or something, that just kind of, so.
Wow.
Communication, I think, is big also.
Now, we all know you guys been together for some time, right? So you guys haven't just been married for 5 years, 7 years. You guys been married for 15 years, and you guys was pretty young. So mostly, a lot of this probably did happen when you guys was younger.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. You know, we just came into the relationship young, having fun, you know, hanging out, running the streets. We both ran the streets. We both lived a pretty tough life. You know, I was on my own at a young age, so we just came into it young and partying and just enjoying life. You know, I don't think we came into it like, oh, I'm in love, I'm going to marry him and spend the rest of my life. That's not how it was. So, you know, with that came a lot of bad choices, a lot of wrong paths that we both went down.
Right. Being in a committed relationship and not being ready to be committed, I think that played a big part of it.
Being in a committed relationship and not being ready to be committed.
That was good.
I like that.
Yeah. So living together.
Tweetable moment.
You know, living together at a young age, you know, and you know, I had a child. She was 2-3 years old when we got together. So here we are coming into this, like he said, committed relationship, but really not knowing what we were getting ourselves into. It was pretty rough. Thinking back, it was rough. It was dysfunctional, very dysfunctional. And you know, he would do something, and I'm the type where, oh, you hurt me? Okay, I'm really gonna hurt you. So then I take it too far. I do things way off.
Revenge.
Yeah. And then we try to come back together, and we just sweep it under the rug.
Never dealt with the issue.
Never dealt with it. Never, ever. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, wow, we never dealt with anything up until 2012. We got together 2002. Never dealt with anything.
Now, what happened in 2012 that made you have to deal with the issues?
Well,
it started off, you know, we separated, and you know, that during that time period, we kind of, you know, we had communication there, but not a lot. But I think it gave us some time to be able to focus on ourselves and see what was wrong with, you know, our weaknesses, and see where we can improve at as individuals, and then kind of, you know, going from there. I think. And then also, you know, I had my beautiful twins, you know, during that time period, so that also created a challenge, but it also kind of sparked things between us also.
So just going back a little bit, in 2011, it was rough. You know, I was pregnant, but like I said, so much stuff happened prior to that. I know I had hurt him tremendously back a few years prior to that. And like I said, we got back together, you know, I got pregnant, but we never dealt with what happened. So here we are in, you know, 2008, 9, 10, 11, and we're just living this life, but it's going to work, coming home, feeding the kids.
Just a routine.
It was a routine. There was no communication. There was absolutely no trust on either end. I know I was nagging and complaining. He would go somewhere and I'm blowing up his phone. You know, like, it was just, again, dysfunctional, unhealthy, unhappy. And it just, you know, it created separation while we were living together. And things happened, you know, mistakes were made, and he straight up said, I don't want this anymore. And he left. He left, and I was devastated. Devastated, begging, pleading for him to come home.
Now, why were you devastated?
Devastated because my family was broken up.
The reason why I say devastated is because you shared that you guys was doing things to each other, you know, and that you guys didn't communicate. It was like a routine. You was doing stuff, you was doing stuff. So when he finally said, I don't want this no more, what happened in you that caused you to be like, okay, this is not what I want. I want you. I want to get, like, I need to fix this. We need to fix this. Like, what triggered?
Honestly, it was all these years we have been together, and he had never once said, I don't want to be with you anymore. Maybe, you know, an argument like, it's over, I'm done. And then the next day he would come back or whatever. But he had never said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. He totally checked out prior to him saying that. But I knew in my heart, oh my gosh, he's done. And you don't know what you have until it's gone. And that was just devastation. That was, it was over. It was over. My marriage was over. My family was over. And he seemed so happy when he left. It was like, whew, I can breathe now.
Is that how you felt?
To an extent. So it kind of felt like, you know, being locked down at home, you know, in home. So when I was away from that, then it was kind of like
freedom.
Yeah,
like getting out of jail.
You know,
No, seriously. I know we're laughing and making light of it now, but it's real.
Yeah,
It's real. You know, being able, I mean, I hear it all the time, even from women. You know, I know a lot of men feel like they are locked down, but I know a lot of women that come into my salon and they just feel like as soon as they leave, they feel like, okay, you know, he's off of me. And so what get us to that point to where we, and like you said, it was a lot of, you know, not trusting each other, but not just that, but we did things to each other that made us not trust each other. So how did we build that, you know, that trust relationship back? And also, before we go back, I want to go back to you having twins, right? How did you deal with that? And how did you deal with that? How did you tell, you know, how did you guys deal with that? Like the forgiveness? Because that's, you know, I hear women all the time saying, and men all the time saying, I never forgive if this happened, or I never forgive if that happened. But that, to me, pretty babies, that's the least that could happen. You know, that's just, that's a blessing. And I know that it's hard to say it's a blessing, but a lot of other bad stuff could have happened.
Right.
You know,
right, yeah.
And it didn't. So how did you forgive, and how did you forgive yourself? And how did you guys say, you know what, we're just going to move on and build on the trust and make this work? Like, what happened? What made you guys, what triggered?
Well, prior to him telling me, so we were separated for 8 months. And during that time, like I said, I was devastated. I had lost myself. I was angry. I used to call him and scream and yell and go off, and then call him the next day like, I love you, I miss you. You know, I was like on an emotional roller coaster. And my spiritual mother, who wasn't my spiritual mother at the time, reached out to me and was like, I'm gonna help you. And I started going to counseling every Monday. I sat on that woman's couch and I just built a strong relationship with God, and I prayed every day. Every day I prayed, and I told myself, you know what? I want my marriage. You know, a lot of women, even men, stuff happens and they try to convince themselves and their friends and their family like, oh, I'm done. But deep down inside, they still want it. So I had to be honest with myself. It didn't matter what was going on or what had happened. This is what I want.
Or what people were saying,
what
people think.
I didn't care about any of that. I just knew I want my marriage, and I'm gonna fight for my marriage. So for 8 months, even though he didn't want to hear it, I was praying and I was, you know, asking God, bless my marriage. I want companionship, friendship, intimacy, trust, honesty. I mean, I laid it all out to God. And it got to a point to where my anger lessened. I wasn't as angry. I wasn't calling him all the time. And I remember he called me and said, I need to talk to you. And I went over there and I said, the look on his face was like he was devastated. And I said, don't worry about it. I already know. And he looked and I said, you want a divorce? Because during that time of praying and getting close to God, God made me stronger. And I felt like I could deal with whatever. You know what, God, if this isn't for me, I trust you enough to know this isn't for me. So I said, don't worry, I already know you want a divorce. And he looked at me, and the pain in his eyes was so intense. It was just intense. And I was confused. I'm like, well, what is it? And he said, you know, I got someone pregnant. But I felt like, to this day, I feel like he was more hurt than I was. And it sounds crazy, but at that moment, I knew this man loves me, because the pain he felt, the remorse he felt for hurting me, not the remorse of the children, the pain that he was causing me and our family. And I knew at that moment, as crazy as it sounds, this is my husband, and we are going to fix this. Deal with all these past issues. We got to get it right with each other. And we went to counseling. We back to my spiritual mother, and we sat on that couch every Monday, and I cried. And did you cry?
No,
but you know, we opened up, and healing was able to take place. And you know, I hate to say that my bonus daughters are a blessing in disguise, because that sounds kind of negative, but they are a blessing. They blessed my marriage. They turned my marriage around. They helped my marriage. They helped us to see, you know what? We got to get it right. We got to get it right. And healing took place. Healing took place. It wasn't easy. It was not easy. But just going back, when I prayed for those 8 months about trust, honesty, friendship, companionship, intimacy, all of that, it was like God gave it to me like that. We got back together. Did I nag? I mean, no. It wasn't nothing like what it was before. And you know, during that time, I'm begging him to come back, and he wouldn't. And you know what? It wasn't on God's timing. It was not. This had to happen. Wow. It had to happen. This is all in God's plans. So,
Marvin, so what the thing is, and I'm not sure what, you guys have a lot of friends, you guys got people who assume, but these beautiful babies was made when you guys wasn't together. That's the thing. Y'all wasn't even together, but you still felt the need to feel like, listen, you was telling her the whole time, I don't want to be with you, we're not going to be together. And you was living your life as a single man, even though you was quote unquote married. But you still felt the need to sit her down and tell her. And like she said, she felt the hurt that you probably have, what you thought you was causing her.
Right.
What?
Right. Well, because, you know, well, first of all, because she was my wife. You know, we've been together for how many years? 9 years then?
Oh, at the time.
Yeah. It was like 9 years at the time. So I'm not the type of person, I don't want to intentionally hurt anybody. And especially seeing her hurt, regardless of what the reason is. So, you know, just knowing how that would affect her, it just caused me a lot of pain, just to know that I was, you know, that it would hurt her feelings. You know, I didn't want to see her hurt, regardless of if I didn't want to be with her or that we weren't living together, regardless of, you know, she was still my friend, she was still the mother of my children. I didn't want to see her hurt, you know, and I knew how she would feel about it. So, you know, it was hard for me. You know, I had my mom there, I had her spiritual mother there, and her husband. You know, so I had some people there. We prayed before she came, you know, and
when she came for you to tell her, oh, you had backup.
Actually, no. Wait a minute. No one was there. It was no.
It was Merle.
No, babe. It was me and you. You told me, and I got on the phone instantly, and I called his mom, and I said, I need you. And they came running over.
Oh, okay.
They came running over. But they already knew. You know, his mom knew, and yeah, so.
You just remember the backup.
I remember
backup came quickly.
Yeah, I remember being there. So
backup came quickly.
You know, so it was a challenge, you know, to have to tell her that, and just, you know, have to see her hurt, you know, but over time, you know, it took a lot of time. It took a lot of patience, and you know, it just took a lot of love.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't, it also, the most important thing was God. You know, I don't think without God, neither one of us would have made it through, because, you know, it wasn't like she just was hurt at that time and that was it. You know, we had several different moments and several different things or incidents that happened that, you know, we both had to try to overcome. And without God, I don't think we would have made it through it at all. So, you know, I think that played a big part in helping us heal and get to where we are now.
And at that time, you knew that that you wanted your wife.
Right. Yeah. You know, I
It
wanted
was
my
worth
wife.
fighting for.
Right, and my family. You know, it was family is a big thing for me. You know, I grew up in a single parent home. You know, with my mother, she had, you know, she married after my father, but just, you know, having my mother and my father separated, I know how that feels. And, you know, I didn't want that for, you know, my kids, you know.
Repeat the cycle.
Right, yeah, I didn't want to repeat the cycle. I wanted to stop it. So, you know, that, and, you know, I love her. You know, if I didn't care, if I didn't have no love for her, I wouldn't have cared if she was hurt. It wouldn't have bothered me, you know. But the reason why I had to, when she was asking me, like, you know, wanting to be back together, is like I had to put my foot down. Because like she said before, it was a lot of times we would just get back together and just sweep everything under the rug. And it was like this time I was like, no. I was like, no, you know, I can't do that anymore. You know, and so, you know, we ended up getting back together, but it took some time, and we also set boundaries. We set boundaries when we got back together to help us develop trust and just to help work on things like communicating with each other, giving each other our own personal space, our own privacy, not going in each other's phones and looking in the phones and doing different things like that and calling numbers back, and, you know, things we did as a kid, and just setting those boundaries and allowing each other to be in a marriage, but then also, you know, having your me time. You know, and I thought that was really important, allowing her to have her me time, me to have my me time, and us just trusting each other when we're away from each other. You know, that made things a lot better. You know, it was hard. It took a long time for us both to get there, but, you know, once we got there, things are so much better.
Wow, wow. Well, listen, this is part 1. We're going to come back to part 2, and we're going to talk about how do we rekindle? How do we, what boundaries that we have? You talked about it a little bit, but talk about the boundaries, and how do we make this connection? How do we improve on communication? And also, I want to talk to the audience a little bit, or have you guys talk to the audience and tell them some things that happen that, you know, should never have happened, and how can, maybe if somebody's listening, how can they prevent going down the same road that you guys went. So again, this is part 1. We will be back later on next week for part 2. Level Up with Sharie Wilson.
Let's level up. Level up. Community, friends, family. Level up. Your finance, your friends, and your mindset. Level up. Your health, vision, and knowledge. Level up.
Your life. Level up with Sharie Wilson.